I used to think that this was my town. What a stupid thing to think.
Welcome, everyone, to Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. I'm your host, your buddy, your pal, your friend in all things news and awesomeness. And I'm glad you are here today sharing your time with us. If you want to be part of the conversation, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC is the number. You can also leave a comment on the live stream. We are currently live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform we still call Twitter. I have for you, between Tucker, between Calvin's on the board doing the ones and twos. Good morning, Calvin. How are you today, by the way?
I'm doing pretty well, Greg. It's glad it's Thursday. We're almost to the end of the week.
Yeah, but we're going to get punished for it being the end of the week because it's going to be dangerously cold. That's right, folks. Be on the lookout. A deep, extreme winter warning is coming our way tomorrow, starting tomorrow, I believe, at noon, going through Saturday, and then from on through Saturday, I'm wrong. I was listening to Dan Hanning this morning. Starting midnight tonight, that's what starts the winter cold warning, and then on Saturday we go into a watch. So please be safe, bundle up, make sure you are keeping all the things that you need to stay warm: hats, gloves, scarves, second gloves if you need them, but just stay warm, be aware, and keep it locked here at Civic Media for all your weather updates that you need. We have a fantastic show for you today. It's kind of an oops all guests show today. Didn't plan it, but here we are, and I'm happy about it. After the 9:30 news, we've got Angela Lang, who is the founder and executive director of Black Leaders Organizing Communities, here to talk about news coming out of Milwaukee, where there was a decision from MPS on their SROs and defining their roles within the schools. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about a proposed amendment that was passed through the Senate regarding DEI that has been a hot button issue for the GOP for the past few years, discussing what that amendment will mean for Wisconsinites and just DEI in general and the classic misclassification of what DEI actually is and who benefits from those types of programs. And then after the 10 o'clock news, it is Jim Santel. He is the host of Amicus, a law review. He is going to be here talking about all the news coming out of the world of law, including some Supreme Court happenings yesterday. Jeez, it's the morning, rushing a lot here. So yesterday there was testimony, there was opening statements in the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about that. Talk about some news out of the Trump administration regarding the dismissal of a very, very controversial figure, and anything else that he would like to discuss, because when he comes here, it's like a mini law class every single week. And if you want to catch more from that, he does host Amicus, a law review, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Saturday on Civic Media. If you can't catch it live, you can always go to civicmedia.us/shows, catch up. You can listen to all the episodes. I believe he's on episode 183 this week. That's according to Gene from Eau Claire. But also, yeah, it's going to be great. And then 10:35, Paul Noonan from the Acme Packing Company stopping by to talk all things sports. Big breaking news with the Brewers. The Packers still not going to the Super Bowl this year. And people might be really happy that the Bears lost. But we'll be talking about that news coming out of the Packers organization. And if we have time to talk about the Bucs, we could talk about the Bucs. But I don't know if you want to talk about the Bucs right now. Lots of great stuff still ahead. But I said it was oops all guests. And you're probably thinking to yourself, but Greg, there's no guest here right now. Well, that's not true. Not true at all. I do have a guest. Our guest is Civic Media's political editor and founder of the Recombobulation Area. Mr. Dan Schaefer is here this morning as a big surprise. Surprise, everybody. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Mr. Greg Bach. How are you today?
I'm doing quite peachily keen, trying to stay warm. Even in my flannel, I'm chilly, but we want to, please stay warm in the next few days, because it's going to get deep cold in this January winter in Wisconsin. So, I figured you were stopping by to say hi, talk about life, the news, whatever. What's going on, friend?
Well, we had a big event last night, Greg. Did you hear about this one?
I did hear about this one. It took place in, let me see if I got this right. It took place in Milwaukee at the Cooperage, and you were the moderator of the Main Street Candidates Forum. That's right.
That's right. We had 7 top Democrats running for governor on stage together for the first time last night in Milwaukee at the Cooperage. I had the honor of being the moderator for the event that was hosted by our friends at Main Street Action, and it was, I was just absolutely fascinated to see how everything would go. Being the moderator, juggling a lot of things from being on stage there, figuring out this for time and this for people getting on and off the stage and all of that. But I think we had a terrific event. The turnout was incredible. It was absolutely packed at the Cooperage. I think we had more than 300 people there. All of the campaigns had setups around there. Civic Media had a setup there. We were live streaming the event. So in case you did miss it, you can go to the Civic Media YouTube channel after this show, of course, and go check that out. But it was a terrific discussion and talking about so many of the issues that I think are going to be really important ones for Wisconsin for the next year. And we have had, I know on this show and others, Sean Fettaplace from Main Street Action has been on here and talking about issues like ones that matter to the Main Street economy, issues that matter to small business owners. Wisconsin is a small business state, and as I was doing some research and prep for the event last night, I came across some statistics that show that more than 99% of businesses in Wisconsin are small businesses, and nearly half of the people in this state are employed at a small business. So Wisconsin is a small business state. When Main Street does well, Wisconsin does well, and it was great to have this conversation with those 7 candidates together on stage for the first time.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is kind of the big first event of the campaign season. We've seen announcements, we've seen videos, there have been a lot of singular interviews. I know Chad Holmes up in Bull Falls has done a lot of great sit-down talks with individual candidates, but this is the first one with a multitude of individuals running for the office, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is the Democratic field. Last week we were looking at those fundraising numbers to see, kind of who would be in the mix if the many people who announced, in the fall and early winter there are going to be, viable candidates, and they all raised enough to be that. And now we got to see them on stage together and talking about these issues. So just to run through the list of candidates quickly here, it was Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, State Representative Francesca Hong, State Senator Kelda Royce, former WEDC CEO Missy Hughes, former DOA Secretary Joel Brennan, and former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. And so we had all of them up last night. We had questions from a group of panelists from Main Street Action. They asked about a number of questions about childcare, healthcare, access to capital, a lot of those issues that Main Street Action is also very involved in, and had some other audience questions that we were able to get to as well. And for me, it was also just as interesting to see this group of candidates kind of interact with each other, a little bit on stage too, and where everybody was sitting and how, people were talking before and after the event and, coming together and delivering these messages, not just in a one-on-one interview or at a campaign stop or whatever, but with all of these candidates assembled together. So a lot of takeaways. I'm still processing a lot of what happened last night, but it was a really terrific event.
If you're just joining us on mid-mornings on Civic Media, we're talking to Dan Schaefer, the founder of the Recombobulation Area, Civic Media's political editor, as well as the host and moderator of last night's candidate forum, sponsored by or put on by Main Street Action and at the Cooperage in Milwaukee. And what was the general energy and tenor of the questions coming from the audience? What was the thing that was really working them up that they wanted to find out more about these individuals who want the job of governor?
Yeah, I mean, so we had so many people register for the event, and most of them had submitted the questions when registering. It was one of the options that you had there. And I think before the event even started, we had nearly 100 questions that were submitted. So there was a lot of interest in, certainly the topics that that Main Street Action involved with. A lot of questions about healthcare. Not a huge surprise there, considering all that has happened at the federal level and, kind of what can be done at the state level as well. Affordability was a big thing. Childcare was a big thing. And, we had a lot. I mean, we're only able to ask one question about it by the end of the night, but there were a lot of questions about ICE activity in Minneapolis, about the federal overreach there, about how, this can play out in a campaign setting. And so, kind of we had it set up so that half the panel was answering one question, and then the other half of the panel was answering the next. And we did give the whole panel an opportunity to answer that question about Minneapolis too. And so, you know, again, these are all Democrats, so they're not going to have like huge swings from one candidate to the next about what their approach is going to be on so many of these issues. You know, I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for a lot of these candidates to distinguish themselves over the next, 8 months, because I do think this is going to be a competitive primary all the way until August. And so, but I think, it also just showed, I think, a lot of these kind of kitchen table bread and butter issues that people always say, oh, Democrats need to get back to focusing on the economy, focusing on what matters to regular people. And I think these are those types of issues, these healthcare, childcare, paid leave, starting a business, all of that is something that matters to people around their kitchen table.
And you're right. We are on like the first of a very long road. And I know that there was donation information released recently last week. They were talking about who's made the most money, who's making money where, and one candidate can say like, I've made a lot of money off of small donations. So another, and this isn't even just this isn't the Democrats, but the GOP people making a lot of money off of maybe 3 donors. But we still have a long ways to go, and there's still a lot of work to do. And while some people have made more money than others, I think there is still time for folks to make headway, get out there, knocking on doors, going to events, going to town halls. And really, I think if anything we've seen is that you may have 5 or 6 people who can give you tons of money, but we still see folks giving $5, $10. And that's also what matters too, because that means the message is getting out there in the streets.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really fascinating. So last week we had the campaign finance reports. Mm-hmm. This week we have this first forum. So now this primary is off and running. Mm-hmm. And I think, the 7 candidates that we had on stage last night, I think, we're all going to be hearing a lot more from them in the coming weeks and months here in Wisconsin. And one of the things that I always think is true is that there's always going to be a Wisconsin race that previews what happens nationally. And there's so much talk about like where the Democratic Party goes from here. Maybe we find that answer in this primary. Maybe we find out whoever, emerges from this, what their message is going to be. Maybe that can be a message that the Democrats can listen to and take nationally as well.
And I want to talk about that on the other side of the break really quick about this year. And I feel like this year for Wisconsin, the amount of elections we have and what they determine are going to be a big factor in what will lead us possibly to 2028. But that's going to be more with Dan Schaefer on the other side. Go grab some snacks, grab some hydration, keep warm, get a hand warmer if you need it. But we'll be talking more with Dan Schaefer. He is the founder of the Recombobulation Area and Civic Media's political editor right here on Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. If you have any questions or comments, please call, text 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Stay tuned and stay close.
Sleeping well, uninspired, likely mad as hell. But wherever you are, I hope that high road leads you home again to a world you want to live in. To a world you want to live in.
All right. Secret show.
Oh, we do have secret show here. Excellent. Love it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have secret show. Oh, yeah, we have secret show.
Of course.
Okay, cool. Excellent. And if there's any other highlights you want to bring up from last night too, we can start with that. But I thought we could just talk briefly about just the fact that this is kind of a monumental election year for Wisconsin, as you stated. So
sure.
It was good, though. You looked very spiffy. You looked
Thank
very
you.
nice. You looked very dressed up.
I have my one suit.
Excellent. How have you been, my friend? It's been a while.
I know it's been about a month now, right? It's I'm doing good. It's I'm not a winter person, so I'm muddling through here, but but we're doing all right.
Good.
I'm really happy with how last night went. So
good. I mean, that was a big deal. That was really, really cool. I really I couldn't see the entire room, so I wasn't sure how full it was. But man, that That's a lot. That's fantastic.
It was full. It was full all the way. Like the whole bar area was full. The whole they had standing room only seats up in that balcony at the space. I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was packed. It was it's like being the moderator. It's just like I almost don't really have that many thoughts on like what people were saying, because I was just like I was having to kind of man the switchboard with a lot of it, right? So it's like I'm like checking on time, seeing if because we had panelists coming up and down from the stage. We were checking on time. We're checking on making sure each candidate had the right number of questions, and managing the people started getting a little bit loud at the bar at one point, so all
That's
that
what I was
stuff.
going to ask, if there was any sort of audience moments where you're like, okay, guys, get it, just.
Yeah, Sean came up to me at one point and he says, "You got to say something about the people at the bar." So,
all right, cool. We come back in 20 seconds.
all right.
Welcome back to Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. I'm your buddy, your pal, your friend in all things politics and information. You can be part of the conversation by calling or texting. The number is the same, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment on that live stream. You can do that by going to Facebook, YouTube, or the platform we still call Twitter. Still ahead, after the 9:30 news, we have Angela Lang, who is the executive director and founder of Block, Black Leaders Organizing Communities, talking about news out of Milwaukee, including SRO announcements from MPS and a proposed amendment from the Wisconsin State House on DEI, which will be no surprise to anyone when we talk about that. And Jim Santel in the second hour, talking all things law, all things sports with Paul Noonan, but now it's all things politics. It's Oops All Guests today. That's what I'm talking about here on Thursday on Mid Mornings with Dan Schaefer, founder of the Recombobulation Area and Civic Media's political editor, discussing last night's event at the Cooperage, which was the Main Street Candidates Forum, and the first big forum of the 2026 gubernatorial race here in Wisconsin. And I don't know, let me ask you a question, Dan. Is there an election you can think of in Wisconsin that is so, as you put it before, both telling and important? Because we're looking at the ballot here, and it is going to be state Senate, state assembly, for the possibility of the Democrats controlling it for the first time in 15 years. We're talking about candidates making a real run for the first congressional district here in Wisconsin. Rebecca Cook against Derek, well, not just Rebecca Cook, but Derek Van Orton going up against possibly Rebecca Cook and others in the primary, and then the governors. What does that determine for Wisconsin, and then how does it frame the election for 2028?
I mean, I think there's so much there just for 2026. This is, again, the first real opportunity for Democrats to win a trifecta in Wisconsin in more than 15 years. And I think I wrote a column about this a few weeks ago. I think there's a very realistic chance for Democrats to flip the Senate. I think the Assembly is going to be a little bit tougher. We saw some fundraising numbers on that come in last week. The Republican Assembly Committee outraised the Democratic Committee based on pretty much just donations from Liz Uline and Diane Hendricks. But the fact that this trifecta is on the line, that there is the first open race for governor in the state of Wisconsin since 2010, I think this is just going to be a landmark year for Wisconsin politics. And I think we're seeing kind of the right side of the aisle, the gubernatorial primary there isn't quite as spicy. I don't think it just seems like it's Tom Tiffany being pretty far out in front, and Josh Schoman still running, I guess. And then, but I think
he's always mad about something.
We don't need to get into Josh right now, but you know what? I think there's been a lot of people who've talked about this this Democratic field, and I think some of my friends on the right have not had some particularly kind things to say about this field, and I couldn't disagree with that more. I think this is a really strong bench that Democrats have, and I think last night's event showed that. I think all of the 7 candidates are there. Were on stage, had really compelling things to say, and I think they all are certainly qualified for the role. And I think you're going to see some of these, I think, kind of micro primaries within this primary, because it's such a large field. Like, is there a progressive lane to go after? Is there another, more moderate who's going to grab that? Who's going to, be the candidate from, southeastern Wisconsin, where there's so many voters from? Who's going to be the candidate that's going to speak to the Madison voters? Who's going to, have a little bit more reach statewide? I think this is going to be really, interesting to see those types of conversations within the primary too. But again, big picture, zooming out, 30,000-foot view, all of the cliches, right? This is a opportunity that we have not seen for Democrats in Wisconsin in a generation.
And I think there's 2 main points from that I want to take away. One, I think when you talk about the usual suspects of the Uihleins and the Hendricks and that big money coming through, we saw that last year with Elon Musk, and Wisconsin didn't like that. And I think we shouldn't just equate big money coming from the big billionaire. We should look at from our local billionaires as well. And Elon Musk has made it clear that he wants to get back into local politics again. So I think when we talk about that, we should say, do we want these individuals determining our destinies? Do we want these individuals giving their money to a few candidates to say, well, that's my guy and that's going to be the one? No, that we are the people, and it means that we can give $5, $10, $15. That money makes a difference. Ask Francesca Hong about small donations from many people. Ask Barack Obama in 2008, small donations from many people. And, I think the other thing, too, that will have to be reckoned with is that with a deep bench from the Democrats, there needs to be some consolidation, too. It's got to be, it can't be, well, I don't like that person because they don't say exactly what I like, so I'm not for them. We can't do that. They can't do that. It cannot be protest votes or sitting it out because so-and-so isn't the person I like. If you don't like what's going on right now, you have to consolidate, come together, compromise, move forward together, and work together. That's the only way it gets done.
Yeah. And I think focusing on the issues that we talked about at the forum last night, talking about the Main Street economy issues, talking about small business owners, talking about what really matters to families' pocketbooks when it comes to affordability and all that. I think that those are the types of issues that I think are going to matter. Mandela Barnes even unveiled one, kind of policy proposal in as part of the forum last night, and saying that wanted to give some assistance to grocery stores that might be closing. We've had a run of grocery stores closing in disadvantaged neighborhoods in Milwaukee. So I think focusing on just real world problems and trying to address the needs of Main Street, that's what we wanted to focus on in that forum last night. That's, I think, can be a guide for these folks for the rest of the primary too.
Absolutely, and we've got a long road ahead, and we'll be covering that throughout 2026. Dan Schaefer is the founder of the Recombobulation Area, as well as Civic Media's political editor. If you want to catch a replay of that forum, you can go to civicmedia.us. It'll be right there. You can watch the replay, but we'll be talking more about this in the future. Thank you so much, Dan, for stopping by this morning.
Thanks, Greg. Good to see you, buddy.
All right, we'll talk to you sooner than later. After the break, we have Angela Lang from Black Leaders Organizing Communities Block here to talk about all the news coming out of Milwaukee. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Mid-Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. Stay tuned. Stay close. All right. And here is Dan Schaefer, and there is Angela Lang. Ooh. Oh.
Hey, friends.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I thought you were frozen. Hey, Angela.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for being here today.
Of course, obviously.
It's all guests. It's Dan. It's Angela. It's Jim. It's amazing. And Paul Noonan with sports, and I will pretend to know things about football.
How's it going, Angela?
Good. Today's Friday.
That didn't sound convincing at all.
I know. I'm sorry. It's been a week. There's the Fire and Police Commission meeting tonight that folks are gonna go to, and had a couple other things in terms of school board stuff, which we'll get into. But been a busy week.
Yeah. You're kind of freezing up there, Angela.
All right, I'm gonna jump out of the stream so you guys can figure all this out.
All right,
talk to y'all
We'll
later.
talk to you. All right, see ya. Angela, are you there?
I can hear you. It's coming in and out. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you, but you are frozen right now. Do you want to go out and come back in again? If not, we'll just have you call, and we can just have you that way.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Let me
Yeah,
leave
sign
and
out
I'll
of the
come
stream
back.
completely and come back in.
Hopefully this is better. Maybe.
All right, seems to be, okay, there we go. If it gets frozen and we have some problems, just call the
I'll just
number and
call.
we'll go from there. But yeah, we're good to
Okay.
go. I can see you. The video looks good. We
Test,
come
test.
back.
I'm like, I think I sound good. Cool.
Yeah, you sound great. We'll kick it all into. I'm going to put you back into the waiting room. I'm going to intro you, bring you on, and then we'll kick it off with MPS, and we'll go from there and start with SROs and give an overview of what SROs are, just because some folks may not have them in their school. So, oh,
Totally. Gotcha.
okay, cool. All right. Hey, it's Angela on the phone. Welcome back to Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach, your buddy, your pal, your host today. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your time with us. If you want to be part of the conversation, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment on the live stream. You can also call or text or leave a voice message through the Civic Media app. If you don't have it, get it on your device right now. It's absolutely free. That's a pun. You can do all those things, call, text, leave a voice note. You can also get your news. You can also listen to us live from the app. You can listen to the music stations via the app. You can customize it to where you live, to what you want to get, but download that free Civic Media app right now. As a reminder, do not forget, I know you're not forgetting right now if you live in Wisconsin or in the surrounding areas, it is cold. It's going to be very cold. And starting tonight through Friday afternoon, there will be an extreme cold warning happening. And then from Friday through Saturday, there will be an extreme cold watch. But we're talking zero, below zero temperatures, very, 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 very cold wind chills coming through as well. Right now, we're sitting at about 12 degrees here at Radio Park. It's going to get colder, so please take care, be safe, bundle up. Might want to pack some stuff extra in your car, blankets, whatnot, in case you, hopefully not anything breaks down, but just be prepared. The next few days, next week is going to be very, very cold, but the next 2 days are going to be incredibly bad. So just take care of yourself and take warning. So if you need anything else from that, go to civicmedia.us. You can find out all that weather information. You can also find that on the Civic Media app. So I'm just putting it out there right now. Remember, after the 10 o'clock news in the second hour, we're talking to Jim Santel. He is the host of Amicus, a law review, talking about all of the big stories coming out of the world of law, including opening statements in the Supreme Court yesterday regarding the president's power to fire federal workers and some other things going on, including the letting go / firing of a very controversial figure from the Trump White House. More about that in the second hour. Paul Noonan with sports at 10:30. And then today we're going to end the show with a little piece of advice from Greg. We'll find some music later, but a little piece of advice, a little heads up on a scam that's running through Wisconsin for those who might be looking at weight loss drugs. But right now, we've got her on the phone to talk about all things coming out of the world of Milwaukee. She is the executive director of Black Leaders Organizing Community. She's the founder of the group as well. My friend, consistent and constant awesome person in my life, Angela Lang. Angela, good morning. How are you today?
I'm good. Hey, friend. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So when I want to talk to you, I kind of want to just leave it up to you when we're discussing stuff, because there's so much coming out of the world of Milwaukee and southeastern Wisconsin, and I want you to, get it all out there because, I feel like there are aspects of the world that you work with on a daily basis that a lot of people don't know about but still affect us. And one thing I wanted to kick off, you talked about news coming out of the MPS school board and an approval on a new policy. Can you talk more about that regarding SROs?
Yeah, so the other night, the Milwaukee School Board actually had a committee meeting where one of the school board directors, the chair of this committee, put forth a resolution to have more parameters and have more boundaries and accountability for school resource officers. And for folks that, may not have SROs or school resource officers in their schools, this was a product of Act 12. And so when we had the shared revenue debate, one of the conditions is that we have to put basically cops back in schools, unfortunately. What that had to do with increasing the sales tax, nothing, but these are some of the poison pills that Republicans put in there. I think it's also worth noting that in 2020, due to the leadership of the students, especially after the George Floyd murder and protests, they were able to get the school board to sever ties with the Milwaukee Police Department. So that passed overwhelmingly. The school board and their authority said we're going to sever ties with Milwaukee Public Schools, but unfortunately Act 12 changed that and overrode their democratic process and said you have to put cops back in schools. And up until then, we have seen that there has been reports. The Journal Sentinel came out with a report the other day saying that the bulk of the interactions with school resource officers are to Black students and for things that you necessarily don't need to call the cops on.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that this is only a pathway for the school to prison and the school to deportation pipeline. We've seen how our students, when they're speaking out, they're at risk of whether it's things like ICE or cops in schools. Now is not the time to let officers in our schools and basically have free reign.
And that's something I want to make clear too, because during the break we were talking about that not everybody has experiences with SROs, and everyone knows. We see videos of varying degrees. We'll see videos that are put out by organizations, whether it's schools or whomever, saying the officer is a friendly person and they're waving and patting hugging backs and high-fiving and playing basketball, and that's great. And I think to a certain extent, that's what they should be connecting with the students. But a lot of times that's not the case. And essentially, SROs essentially is a police officer in school. I feel like it's a fancy title for a police officer in the school, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the topics that actually came up as well is that these are full armed, fully uniformed police officers.
Yes.
This is not somebody wearing a polo that says Milwaukee Public Schools School Resource Officer with maybe pepper spray and a baton, which we wouldn't even want anyways. But this is something where you walk into the school, these are literal cops, right? And what does that mean for especially Black and brown kids that are going to school and feel like they're already walking into a jail or a prison when they're supposed to be learning? Understanding that we have lead in our water. If we really want to connect everything, we have lead in our water. There's a lot of our kids and our young people that have been exposed to lead in the drinking water, which leads to behavioral issues, which leads to, students maybe acting out. Is that something that the police need to be called on in putting these kids on a path to the school to prison or deportation pipeline? I don't think so.
It also sounds like a need for investment from the state and maybe funding our schools through our biennium budgets, but that's a whole other conversation for another time.
Another conversation.
You mentioned, I'm sure our listeners are aware of at least the terms school to prison pipeline, but you said school to deportation pipeline. Angela, can you speak more on that and how everything has changed maybe in the past couple of years with regard to, as you said, protesting and young people who face consequences of being deported?
Absolutely. I mean, I said this and I testified in front of the school board the other night. I am a proud product of Milwaukee Public Schools. We didn't have school resource officers. We had maybe twice a year where they brought in a metal detector and they made us sit in the cafeteria so everyone went through it, right? But now, what does it look like knowing that young folks are afraid to go to school? Parents, especially folks that are immigrants, whether they're undocumented or not, are afraid to bring their students to school for fear of ICE just indiscriminately picking people up, whether they're citizens or not. We've heard many reports of even college students that had nothing, to do with anything, haven't done anything wrong, but are being deported for no other reason. We've also seen a large, and this has happened over every generation of the student movement that I've seen, whether it's back in my day or in the civil rights movement, we see a concerted repression around students that are speaking out that often tend to be targeted as well. And especially under this Trump administration, being able to even speak out can be a criminal offense these days.
If you're just joining us on Mid-Mornings on Civic Media, we're speaking with Angela Lang, who is the executive director and founder of Block Black Leaders Organizing Communities. We're talking about the news from the MPS school board about the redefinition of SROs in the schools and and what SROs are as far as what kids see, and how the recent activities in the past, well, not recent, the past couple of years have affected the school life for children, especially those who could face deportations. Now, I'll just get right to the heart of it then. With regard to Minneapolis, to Minnesota, everything that's happening right next door to us, what is the tenor in the schools and in Milwaukee and in what you are seeing, what you are doing in the work you're doing with Block?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing is that folks are kind of bracing for in case this happens to us. We've seen threats of the National Guard and ICE in Chicago. We've seen what happened in Minneapolis. We're not far from either one of those places. Yeah. So I think that there is, some fear, but I also think folks are bracing and organizing about what will happen if and when something like this happens in Milwaukee. And so I'm encouraged that folks are coming together. And it's weird because I'm 36. I don't feel old, but I feel old when I'm next to these young people. They have organized. They are standing up for themselves. I am so proud of them. Before a lot of them testified at the school board meeting the other night, a lot of high schools actually walked out in protest of ICE as well. And so, seeing more and more young people stand up and say, this is not what I want my future or my education to look like, I think is very inspiring. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that folks weren't a little bit, nervous, wondering if something like this is going to happen in Milwaukee, and are we actually ready and prepared?
Well, and that's the other thing too, is I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, Cavalier Johnson, the mayor of Milwaukee, came down and said they don't have a specific plan right now.
Yeah.
And we are seeing more and more sheriff's office making the decision whether or not they're going to work with ICE. And there was a bill that came that's up for proposal, I believe, that says that sheriffs work with ICE or DHS, or counties lose shared revenue by 15%. And when we were talking about that earlier last week, it's not a matter of the police departments will lose 15%. The counties will lose 15%. And when a county lose 15%, they have to make cuts and sacrifices. And it's not usually the salaries of the higher ups or the cops. It's the social programs that help the people of the community that get cut the first. So there are like long-term problems with this. And the fact that it's sort of like a bracing and waiting, something that we did this week. We spoke to Emilio De Torre from the Milwaukee Turners about the fact, and I'm sure this is something you talk about every single day, is just about knowing your rights, knowing what you can do, what you can say, recording, asking for warrants, being prepared if confronted, knowing what you can do in that situation, because that is so very important. Because I feel like a lot of times these agents, not cops, are counting on you not knowing your rights. Therefore, they can take control of the situation and do what they want.
Absolutely. And I'll say one, shout out to Emilio, good friend, mentor of mine. I first got involved in some of this work due to legal observing trainings back in 2007. And so the work that Emilio and the Turners are doing to make sure that folks know their rights is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Emilio actually a couple months ago did a Know Your Rights training at one of our community meetings. And we're looking to get even more kind of tailored Know Your Rights trainings to kind of meet this moment as well. And I'll just say, too, there's a lot of Black folks that have been having to have these trainings for years and decades because Black folks have been disproportionately stopped by the police. And so we've kind of seen how this has evolved, right? Black folks, a lot of people are like, we've been here, unfortunately. We recognize this terror and the state-sanctioned violence that happened in Minneapolis and all across the country, but we also see that it's getting evolved and it's getting a little bit more sophisticated, and I think all of our communities need to keep up as well.
I think that's one of the major things that I heard coming from the Black community after the tragic killing of Renee Nicole Good, which was, it's been happening. Welcome to the terrible party. So we're going to talk more with Angela after the break. If you want to be part of the conversation, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Still to come, Jim Santel. We got sports with Paul Noonan. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a proposed amendment on the Wisconsin State Constitution that just passed the Senate, will be on the ballot this year, and I want to start talking about it now because I think it's important to discuss. It is the attack on DEI hiring practices here in Wisconsin. More to come with Angela Lang. Don't go far. Stay tuned, stay warm, stay close on Civic Media. All right, Angela, that was fantastic. You're fantastic.
I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm like, I appreciate being able to connect all these dots.
Oh, yeah, of course. And we'll honestly, like, let's work on you being on the show on a regular basis, like maybe once a month or every other, just whatever works in your time frame, essentially.
Listen, I'm down. I was like, anytime Civic Media calls, I am down. My only barrier is my schedule, but 9 times out of 10, I can make it work.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so when we come back, I'll redo all the things I need to do up top, and then I want to go right into that proposed amendment.
Perfect. Cool.
All right, cool. Come back in about 2 minutes or so.
Okay, sounds good.
Great. Welcome back to Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. I'm your buddy, your pal, your seeker and co-conspirator in justice. And you are here today, and we are happy to have you here today. And we have a fantastic show still ahead, including Mr. Jim Santel in the second hour, talking about all things law. He is the host of Amicus, a law review, which is on Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every week here on Civic Media, as well as sports with Paul Noonan, and then a little piece of advice from Greg at the end of the show. Right now, we are talking to Angela Lang, who is the executive director and founder of BLOC, Black Leaders Organizing Communities. We're talking about news coming out of Milwaukee of all sorts, including news from MPS, what the schools are doing to prepare for the schools and the city and groups are trying to do to prepare themselves for possible ICE, I guess you'd say, invasions. That would be the word I would want to use. Before we get back to Angela quick, Jenny on the live stream says regarding plans on what could happen if ICE does come here, David Crowley has announced at last night's governor's forum that Milwaukee County plans to release a website instructing residents on what they legally can and cannot do to ICE presence in our communities. And if you want to find out more about what he and other candidates said, you can go to civicmedia.us and watch the replay of the candidates forum that was presented by Main Street Action, moderated by our dear friend Dan Schaefer, to find out about what the candidates are speaking about in this election year in 2026. But we welcome back to the show Angela Lang, talking about not the big news, but the important news coming out of Milwaukee when it comes to things like, what do we do in the face of an ICE invasion? What do we do in the face of cops in our schools? But now I want to talk about something I think that has a lot to do with not just Milwaukee, but Wisconsin in general, which is a proposed amendment to the Wisconsin state constitution. Because when the Republicans can't get it done legally, they do it in the Constitution. That's how they do it. This one would basically stop. I want to read it entirely by word here. It says that this is what's going to do. The proposed amendment on DEI would prohibit governmental entities in the state from discriminating against or granting preferential treatment to any individuals or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in public employment, public education, public contracting, or public administration. Now, Angela, I know that how it's presented, it's supposed to sound amazing, like let's all hold hands in a Benetton ad and racism is over, but how they're spinning it isn't the real deal. Tell me your thoughts on this, please. And feel free to take a huge, deep sigh of side eye.
Ooh, yeah, and I'm really, really glad that you read the language, because this is my first thought, is that on its face, if you were someone that is like kind of paying attention to politics, but you work multiple jobs, you take care of your kids and parents or what have you, it sounds like, oh yeah, absolutely, we shouldn't be discriminating against people based off of these things. But, you know, the phrase, the devil is in the details, right? And you look at who proposed it.
Yes.
And I could be wrong, but when I officially saw it, this could have changed, so don't hold me to it, but it was a bunch of white men putting this forward.
Yeah.
And I say that laughing because it's like, these are not ally white men. These are Republican white men that feel that DEI is a threat to their own existence. And so by saying, yes, we don't want to discriminate against this, it's basically, and what we've kind of talked about is like, you can't discriminate against white people, is what this amendment is about, right? And we could talk about the history of this country. We can talk about, affirmative action and all of these things. And I think that there is something to be said about the history of this country and why things like affirmative action needed to exist to level the playing field. And I'm just gonna say it, mediocre white men, they're not doing well these days. I think, people are seeing them for who they are, and this is their last ditch effort to try and make sure that they remain in power and that they dominate these institutions and these structures that, quite frankly, continue to oppress people of color. Well,
and I think too that it's also their last ditch efforts in case they lose power in the state house too. They're trying to leave their mark, and when they can't do something in bills and legislation, they put it into the state constitution. And I think that's a bigger problem than we talk about, that we don't talk about.
Yes.
But I think the thing too, as a white male who I would like to say that I am progressively mediocre. I'm moving away from mediocre, but I think the thing that we need to talk about too is and they sort of gave themselves up in the conversation, because DEI, which by the way was referred to by Robin Voss as quote cancerous, that was his word, is not just something that it helps so many people. If I am a white male veteran, DEI helps me. If I am a white male who is confined to a wheelchair or otherwise disabled in some way, DEI helps me. And the greatest recipients of DEI and or affirmative action are white women. So this is not really working well in their favor when it comes down to it. And the other thing too is I read through some of the testimony, and they were talking about the fact that amongst the discriminated against are white and Asian people. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Asian people consider themselves people of color too. So the conversation gets muddled in the fact that one, this is not good, and two, they don't know what DEI actually is.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think of when the first couple weeks, roughly about this time last year, the first couple weeks into the new Trump administration, and unfortunately planes were just falling out of the sky. Right?
Yeah.
And the Trump administration was like, it's because of DEI.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what?
And this is a conversation, Angela, I want to have you back. Unfortunately, we have to go to break, but I want to have you back to talk about this because I think it's a whole bigger discussion point, and I'll have you back sooner than later to talk about it, because this has just been proposed, it's been passed, but I want people to know about it now so when they read that language, they understand what's going to happen. Angela Lang is the executive director of Block, founder of Block, Black Leaders Organizing Communities. She will be back. Thank you so much for being here today, my friend. All right, when we come back, it's going to be time spent with Jim Santel talking all things law. He's the host of Amicus, a law review. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned, stay informed, stay close. All right, sorry about that, Angela. I didn't want to have to cut you off there, but let's talk on the show soon. I will talk to Tucker about getting you back within a week or so, if that's cool. Angela? You still there? Is she up? Angela, can you hear me? The secret show is wondering what's going on. Why can't you hear me? All right, Angela, if you can hear me, you can hang up now. I will text you later. Okay. All right. All right, cool. Good morning, Jim Santel.
Good morning, my friend. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm doing well. I've got my water here. I'm
You know,
3 days with no.
I've got some version of this. So we have the same drink. It's called plastic with a straw and water, right?
From big billion-dollar conglomerates.
Exactly, right. It's Civic Media is a huge operation, right?
Yeah.
Right. Good.
Did you send Jane an invite to that play you're doing as well?
I did, yes.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I think I'm going to
she was
see
my-
if
right.
I'm going to see if she might want to go that February 5th date if it's possible.
Yep,
So.
exactly. Yeah. So we just did a first presentation last night. It was small audience, but it's a funny show too. It's very serious, obviously, but it's a funny show.
Yeah.
So would love to have you there. And again, I can get you seats. You don't have to pay anything. So, and maybe
look at me knowing people. Look at me knowing people.
Right.
All right. I'm going to put you back into the waiting room. I'm going to reset the show and then we'll come back. Let's kick it right off with the Supreme Court from yesterday.
Good.
And we'll work it through there.
Wonderful. Always,
All right.
always great pleasure. Good.
All right. We'll talk to you very soon. Welcome back to Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. I'm your host, your buddy, your pal, and you are listening to us on the Civic Media Radio Network. We're happy you're sharing time with us today. If you want to be part of the conversation, the phone number is 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. You can call or text with that number. You can also leave a comment on the live stream. We are currently streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform we still call Twitter. And if you want to get in touch with us, call, text, voice note, listen to us live, get your news, take us anywhere in the world, download the free Civic Media app right now. Put it on your device, put it on your phone, put it on your tablet. We'd love for you to take us with you. You have sent us text messages from all over the world. We've gotten text messages from New Zealand, from Vienna, East Brunswick, New Jersey. All over the world you've taken us, and you can do that too. If you don't already have the Civic Media app, download it where you get your apps. It is absolutely free to put on your device, and then take us with you and share your time with us, and we always appreciate that. Still, lots coming up in this second hour, including a conversation with Acme Packing Company writer Paul Noonan about all things sports. We're going to talk about let's see here what's going on here. There is a huge news coming out of the Brewers organization. The Packers have lost someone, have kept someone, and they're still not in the Super Bowl. So sorry. But the Bears lost, so that might bring you some comfort. I don't know. And then at the end of the show, to wrap it up, it's a little bit of advice from Greg, from me to you, if you are looking for weight loss drugs. Just a little advice to heed, a warning to take in, but that's later on in the show. But right now, we are going to move on to our next guest. He is the host of Amicus, a law review, which is on 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Saturday here on Civic Media. It is like a mini law school every single week for you. I believe if you ask Gene from Eau Claire, he's on episode 183, it would be. But that person is my friend, thespian, lawyer, former U.S. attorney, Mr. Jim Santel. He's a man who wears many hats, and he looks good in hats.
Right.
Good morning, Jim.
I try as best I can to as like Harry Truman, right? He was a haberdasher. I have that word right. And so we'll continue in that good tradition. Greg, always good to be with you and to talk about some of these, again, still breaking things coming out of Washington and other places around our country.
It seems like a lot of things are breaking.
Yes.
Like
right?
a lot. So yeah. But let's start it with the U.S. Supreme Court. There was opening statements yesterday. John Sauer was speaking to the justices. Tell us about what was happening and what we're going to be looking at as far as a possible decision from the court come later this year.
All right. So once again, the issue of how much power a president should have back on the docket yesterday, as you indicated, for oral argument. And it didn't go especially well for the government, which is not entirely surprising. This one had to do, as Greg, you and I and others on Civic Media have talked, this had to do with the attempted firing by the president of Lisa Cook. Remember her? She's the Federal Reserve governor, and she is still there because the Supreme Court declined to support the president initially. Now we're back on the docket as of yesterday, determining whether or not, or what her position is, whether or not she should be fired permanently. And it appears that the Supreme Court is very reluctant to go along with the president's proposal here. Among the other stunning things that this particular oral argument revealed is you've got the Solicitor General of the United States of America. His name is John Sauer. We've heard from him before. He's also the one who advocated for this president when he was a private citizen for presidential immunity. And John Sauer, again, third in command at the Department of Justice, got up in front of the Supreme Court yesterday when he was asked, well, gee, what about due process? What kind of due process should Ms. Cook get? Has she been advised of her rights? Has she had an opportunity to contest those? And the answer comes back from John Sauer, the Solicitor General. Well, this is all done on social media. And we know that the president said that Cook must resign now. 30 minutes after this fellow named Bill Pute, who's from the Federal Housing Finance Agency, talked about this mortgage issue. And again, we're apparently now litigating in America off of social media. The court was very concerned about the due process aspects there. Certainly Fed independence, that's the big one, right? We always think about that. This is an institution created to be independent for all sorts of economic reasons. Lots of concern about that, including from some fairly conservative justices. There's a question again about whether or not they should be doing any of this on the emergency application docket, which is really where this comes from. Once again, fairly likely that they're going to send this back down to some lower courts to figure out what this is all about, kind of prematurely there. And in the end, Greg, I was pleased by the fact that the Supreme Court was not apparently going to give Donald Trump exactly what he wanted here. But it's also a reflection of something equally important, which is we've got incompetence right now going on at the highest levels of government. And I think a number of the Supreme Court justices, again, including some of the conservatives, were looking at this and saying, what are we doing here? When Sam Alito and Brett Kavanaugh are concerned about process and just don't like this, and razor thin records is what they refer to, you've got a problem here. And that's your Department of Justice once again being incompetent. So probably good news whenever this happens. Lisa Cook, at least for now, will probably keep her job. Recognize, however, that there's still this other case out there involving the FTC and Ms. Slaughter. Supreme Court probably will permit the president to fire her. And again, what's going on here, right? How can you reconcile those things? You really can't.
Well, how can you? I guess I would ask your expert opinion on this. Is that why good for one and not good for the other? And from what the news was reporting, Ben Bernanke and Jerome Powell were both in the seats yesterday watching this go down. Ben Bernanke, former Fed chair, and Jerome Powell, current Fed chair, because we're talking about the president's ability to fire these individuals. And now what he's just doing to Jerome Powell is just he's going to prosecute him, apparently.
Right.
But I guess so the question I have that I tried to ask 7 years ago, which is why good for one and not good for the other?
And that's exactly what people like Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor and Tanji Brown Jackson were asking. That if we've created all these federal agencies, and again, your listeners know this, we've got federal agencies intended to be independent. Why? Because they do important things like, securities regulation, the SEC, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, all kinds of important things. And the Federal Reserve establishing economic policy, right? You don't want any of that hooked into politics. That's the reason why Congress said we're creating them. Yes, presidents can appoint governors and board members, but independent. You don't have authority to tell them what to do. And if that applies here, and again, the question you raise is a head scratcher. Why shouldn't it apply across the board? We haven't yet seen the FTC case involving Rebecca Slaughter, but maybe, just maybe, this argument yesterday may have prompted some of the justices to go back and ask that question again. Gee, if we're going to give Lisa Cook permission, rightly, to stay in her position, and she's a part of an independent agency, why are we letting the president fire Rebecca Slaughter, also part of an independent agency? There are some variations you can point to, but there really isn't a good defining principle here. Maybe, just maybe, Supreme Court comes out and says, listen, independent agencies, those mean something, Mr. President, hands off.
Which has been nothing but an attack since he got into office on the checks and balances, separation of power, all those things put forward to really instate the unified executive theory that they've been trying to do since long before Donald Trump, but they've got their best shot with this guy, and it's been working because they have the courts on their side as well. If you want to be part of the conversation, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Cindy from Appleton is on the phone line. Cindy, good morning. How are you today?
Hey, Cindy.
Good morning. Hey, Jim. Hey, I was wondering if this is a topic maybe you'd want to do a show on. I'm wondering what the Comstock rule and the lemon test are all about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Other Supreme Court principles. I think you need to be a part of either instruction, or maybe you need to be part of a law school, Cindy, so we can chat about that. Important concepts. And all of these things, these kinds of concepts created by the Supreme Court, and yet they've been traditions, right? And they've been principles. We've seen this present Supreme Court take big swings at a whole bunch of long-standing principles like that. Let's put that on our list, and we'll get back to that. Lots of good stuff to explore there. Appreciate the great recommendation, Cindy.
Well, and another thing coming, this is SCOTUS adjacent, if you will, a story that came out that a Doge team member misused Social Security data, which was given to them by the Supreme Court. And there are some questions here. So can you talk more on that?
Absolutely. Back in the summertime, once again, the emergency docket, the shadow docket, comes up to the Supreme Court, and the president says, we've got to be able to permit the Musk team, to get into all these agencies, including Social Security Administration. The rules, of course, of that from the time it was created decades and decades ago say hands off. It is private information. It does have medical information in addition to just numbers there. And the Supreme Court says, no, you can go ahead. In a one-sentence order, the Chief Justice says they can be permitted, SSA can permit them access to these materials. Well, the dissenting justices say, wait a minute, you're opening this up again. They basically say to the 22-year-olds, and who knows what will happen here. Sure enough, as you just indicated, Greg, appears that two members of the team may have reached out to an advocacy group that's seeking to overturn the election results in certain states, may have provided some information there. We've got a top justice official yesterday named Elizabeth Shapiro saying that There plainly were some disclosures here, and we need to figure out exactly what was done here over and beyond just looking at the information to provide a greater sense of efficiency, which is what the Musk team's purpose was all about. Apparently, one of them may have signed an agreement that may have involved Social Security data to match state voter rolls. Wild, right? And again, we don't not to the bottom of this, but it's a little bit encouraging to know that at least somebody in the Department of Justice looks at this and says, this is not what we intended. We'll see how this plays out. And whether or not these two team members who have not been identified are going to be in some trouble down the road for, again, doing precisely what the dissenters in the Supreme Court said, which is disclosing information. Why did you need this in the first place? Well, it turns out that maybe they were using it for political purposes. And Elena Kagan should be, again, out there today saying, I told you so. Yeah. This is what happens. I told you so, right?
Stirring her tea going, amazing how that works.
Right.
The question I would have is this, is this giving information? Do people have a right to possibly sue under having their right to privacy violated?
Absolutely.
Handed over by the Supreme Court to them giving away private information. I just feel like there's a place for a conversation on that matter. But we're going to keep talking more with Jim Santel here on the show. He is the host of Amicus, a law review, every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Catch it here on Civic Media. If you can't catch it here, you can listen to episodes by going to civicmedia.us/shows. Catch up on all of the episodes. There's a lot of them, nearly 200. And when you get to 200, we buy you a cake. But we're going to be talking more to Jim after the break. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay close. Stay warm. You're listening to Mid Mornings on Civic Media, on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, that's great. We're going to come back, and I'm going to kick it off with Lindsay Halligan.
Yes, right.
The possible final chapter on her as far as her tenure as a government employee, but we're good to go. And and then at the end, I'll kick it to you to talk about what you'll be covering this Saturday.
Great, wonderful, good.
Excellent. I'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Good.
Welcome back to Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. I am your host, your pal, your friend, and you are here today sharing time with us, and we really appreciate you. If you want to be part of the conversation, you can always call, text. The number is the same whether you're doing it. It's 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. You can leave a comment on the live stream. We're currently streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that we still call Twitter. Coming up after the 10:30 news, we're talking to Paul Noonan from the Acme Packing Company about all things sports, whether we're talking football, basketball, or big news out of the Brewers organization as of yesterday. He'll be here discussing that. And then to close the show out, some friendly advice from Greg. I just want to talk to you about whether or not you're looking for weight loss drugs and why you should be on the lookout for, quote, discount weight loss drugs. But that's all coming ahead. And do not forget that today, starting at midnight, will be an extreme cold warning going all the way through tomorrow. And then from Friday through Saturday, it will be an extreme cold watch. So it's going to be very windy, very cold, below zero temperatures, way below zero wind chill. So just pack accordingly, dress accordingly. Maybe you want to throw some blankets, a shovel, hand warmers into the car to make sure you are covered, just in case, God forbid, a car breaks down. But just want to keep you safe and informed. You can find out more by going to civicmedia.us about the weather in your area. But right now we are talking to Jim Santel. He is a former U.S. attorney, currently a practicing attorney. He is the host of Amicus, a law review, which is on every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we're talking about all things law, all the big stories coming out of the world of law. And one of the big stories that came out this week was the dismissal of Lindsay Halligan, the very, very controversial figure in the Trump administration, sent to do a mission that she failed at.
Lindsay Halligan, again, one of those folks that probably will be a footnote in history. But for her, this is tragic also, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is a lawyer. She's an insurance lawyer. Should never have been placed in this position in the first place. This is one of those times when, again, responsible public officials, when asked to do something for which they're not competent, should say no. Again, maybe you don't say that to this president, but she should have. And he got it just right, Greg. Two judges this week, again, saying that she has to leave her post. You need to go. And you may wonder, well, gee, didn't we do this a couple of months ago? And the answer is yes. And that had to do with the indictments of Letitia James and James Comey, dismissed because she didn't have the authority. And she stayed on. She continued to show up in the office, and signature block is still under hers. The judges this week, again, saying the president had used an unlawful measure to install her, and she's got to go. So she's gone. But it's low level tragic in some way, just because once again it underscores the incompetence. Maybe that's the theme of this morning's discussion between you and me. One of the judges apparently along the way, again, maybe adopting a view from the governor of California about what he should do with the president, directed his clerk to post a help wanted ad for the U.S. attorney in Eastern Virginia. Another said the early administration defense of Halligan, which was that, well, she couldn't indict these folks, but the judge said nothing about her removal, which is absurd, contains a level of vitriol more appropriate, this is the judge speaking, for a cable news talk show than for a court of law. Those are strong words, and it also, again, underscores what is this administration doing on. This is not the only U.S. attorney position that has been troubled, where the U.S. attorneys have had to leave. It is a sort of circuitous way of getting U.S. attorneys in place, but it's not impossible. Do it right, and you won't have these problems. In the meantime, you got U.S. attorneys' offices out there who, again, there are interims and there are others who are taking the responsibility, but this is not a way to run a Justice Department. This is probably the lowest level of incompetence that we have seen. Other things result in huge, dramatic problems for America. Lindsay Halligan, maybe going back to the White House, we don't know. But again, maybe closing this particular chapter on this craziness coming out of Eastern Virginia.
Well, and that, you said that just now, 24-hour news network. But earlier you said things are taken care of on social media, and that's the point. That's what they want. They want things that will get the clicks. They will get the likes. They want people who are going to the podium to say things that are controversial, fiery. I mean, that's half the reason why Catherine Leavitt has the job she has, is because she speaks to the press the way they do, and they have to take it for their various reasons. But that it's not about qualifications. And it just, the question, I've asked you this before though, Jim, there has to be somebody out there who believes in this administration's goals, who has the ability to do this work, and they're just not hiring them. Instead, they're hiring these people that look more like Fox News correspondents and who have zero qualifications. And she failed at her job. They wanted to prosecute Letitia James again, they wanted to try to do it again. They failed again. And I'm just wondering, is this the end of this chapter, or will they resurrect it maybe later this year or next year? Because Letitia James is persona non grata to the president, so therefore he has to get his revenge.
Right. And we've seen that again with Letitia James and with James Comey. And we mentioned the Fed Reserve Chair, others out there, Adam Schiff, even the former director of the FBI, all these people on this list. In a normal circumstance, my friend, we would look to a government and say, okay, learn your lesson from this. Do not go after your political enemies. Go after people. Again, I say that using only the president's words, not ways prosecutors should be talking. You pursue investigations. Mm-hmm. You should be prosecuting based upon the information, the facts, and the law, and making those determinations based upon the application of one to the other. You don't do this based upon a list that you happen to be on because the president doesn't like you. We'd like to think maybe that's the lesson coming out of this, but this is an administration that, again, tends to double down, as they say, and we'll see what happens as the weeks go forward.
Well, I mean, they are not learning their lesson because they want to go after Jerome Powell next. I mean, there is no self-reflection here. There's no time for looking back going, what did we learn today? There's none of that. They got to keep going to the next thing. And the next thing is going to be sports after the news with Paul Noonan, who is a writer for the Acme Packing Company, talking about the Packers, talking about the Brewers, talking about the Bucks. But right now, thank you so much, Jim Santel, for being here for today. We appreciate your time as always.
Right, good to be with you as always. Take care. Stay warm, everybody.
Amicus, a law review, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Saturday here on Civic Media. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned, stay warm, stay close. Right. Wonderful stuff.
All right. Good.
What is that beeping noise, by the way? Is that you, Jim?
I hope it's not, but
I think it is you. Calvin, is that us or is that him? Yeah, I think it's you, buddy.
Okay,
there's something beeping in the house.
Something, yeah. Maybe. It's my heating system going down. I will check it, but good to alert me. Right.
No problem. All right, I will talk to you sooner than later, my friend. Have a great weekend. Have a great show this Saturday, and I'll talk to you soon.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Good. We'll talk soon. Take care.
All right. Bye. Good morning, Paul. How are you today?
I'm okay. How you doing, Greg?
It's the second person to go, I'm fine.
Well, only because I got into work today and they've nerfed all of my internet that's not work internet. So usually can't broadcast through it. So if I sound okay, that's great. But I've got all kinds of weird workarounds working. So I'm hoping it sounds okay.
No, that sounds good. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
No worries on our end. So don't
Good.
let that be one less worry on your end. Do you want to let's kick it off with the Brewers? That's big news.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to I don't know how you feel about talking about the Bucks, or if you want to go, we can go Brewers, Bucks, Packers, however you see fit.
Let's save the Bucks for last in case. Let's do the Packers defensive coordinator thing really quick because they've done some of that. Plus, I don't know what the Bucks have been doing lately, but I will make myself aware in the next 2 minutes.
They lost by 20 last night. That's what I do.
I see that. Part of the problem is they've just been terrible. So,
so do you want to kick off with the Packers then right away?
Let's do Brewers first. They're the biggest news for sure.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right, we come back in about a minute and a half.
Sounds good.
Okay. Welcome back to Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. I am your host, your buddy, your pal and friend in sports, because we're talking sports right now. But if you want to be part of the conversation at any time, call 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment on that live stream. You can also do all that, call, text on the Civic Media app. We are currently streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform we still call Twitter. Still ahead, I've got a friendly piece of advice from Greg to you, especially if you're looking for weight loss drugs, because if you see discount stuff, be on the lookout. More to come in a moment on that, but right now we're talking to our friend from the Acme Packing Company, Mr. Paul Noonan, all things sports, one of our sports gurus here at the show. Good morning, Paul. How are you today on this cold morn?
So far so good. Battening down the hatches for what's coming tomorrow, so... The true negatives.
That's a great reminder, folks. Just as a reminder, tonight we go into an extreme cold warning that will last throughout most of Friday. And then from Friday through Saturday, we are going to be in a extreme cold warning. Watch. So just be mindful. You know it's cold outside. We all know it's cold outside, but this might be the time to pack a little extra. Get those hand warmers. Make sure your car is ready in case there's a breakdown. Don't want that to happen.
Leave open the cabinets in front of your sinks so that the heat from your house gets to the pipes.
You know, that's really That's okay. Before we get into sports, that's okay. That makes sense now because I have a friend whose mom is a snowbird, even though she said snowbird is an offensive term. I'm not getting into that. He was telling me that she was getting he went to go check on the house and she said, "Did you close any of the cabinet doors?" And he said, "No." And no one explained to me why, but that makes sense. I didn't even think about that. Okay. All right. So keep those cabinets open. All right. Well,
yep.
Paul Noonan, sports and home help. Love it.
My house is 100 years old, so this is very important for me.
Oh my good gravy. Well, big news out of the Brewers organization. We're a couple of weeks from pitchers and catchers reporting, but some big trade news from the Brewers. And I don't know if anyone should I don't know if anyone should be surprised, shocked, or upset, but tell us what the Brewers decided to do with one of their biggest pitching names.
So no one should be surprised, but everybody's allowed to be upset. So
Fair.
The Brewers, the Brewers sent Freddie Peralta, their best pitcher, by quite a bit last year. One of the best, honestly, one of the best pitchers in franchise history. That is both good for Freddie and not great for the franchise. They sent him to the Mets along with Tobias Myers, a sort of underrated throw-in who was their best pitcher 2 years ago, but who Pat Murphy does not seem to like. And they got back prospects in return, that being Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams, and two young guys. And the reason nobody should be surprised is Freddie Peralta has 1 year left on his contract, and the Brewers almost always trade anybody of any value when there's only 1 year left on the contract, and they're going to have to pay up that to that person in free agency if they want to keep them. Brewers are not big spenders. They're not as small as spenders as people often say they are.
Yeah.
But the thing about this one is that I think rubs a lot of people the wrong way is they gave Freddie a very team friendly deal about 5 years ago. He's only making $8 million next year. And while the Brewers kind of keep their thing rolling by getting cost controlled players back in trades like this, this has a pretty significant cost immediately for next year. Freddie, in terms of advanced metrics, in terms of baseball, he was like a 5-win player, meaning not like wins and losses from the pitcher record, meaning like they should be 5 wins worse without him than they were last year. And they won a lot of games, but that's a big hit.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of depth at starting pitching. It's one of their weaker parts. They're great at creating bullpen guys out of nothing. They're less good at creating starting pitchers out of nothing. And they got a few guys coming back, like Logan Henderson and Gasser, but like this makes a pretty significant hole. It makes the team worse. I suspect the rest of the division is pretty happy that they did it. And so that's why you can be mad about it. Now, they didn't get back nothing. Brandon Sproat is a pretty good pitching prospect in his own right. He dominated single and double A. He had some trouble at triple A last year. But he will. There's a good chance he starts the season in the rotation. He throws high 90s. He tops out about 98. His changeup is good. His needs some work on his breaking stuff, which is why he was getting roughed up a little bit. But the Brewers are good at fixing that, so it'll probably be okay. And then Jet Williams is the Brewers have a type, man. And here's what it is: they love little guys. This team has more short people playing baseball for them than any other team. A lot of tiny, grindy guys like Caleb Durbin. He is a shortstop prospect. He is 5'7". He does not have great power, but he has good zone management. He walks a lot, basically. He walks a lot. He can hit a couple home runs. He'll probably top out around 10, 15 home runs. He can play shortstop. He can also play some center field, but he doesn't quite have the speed to be great at them. So they've got another like little tiny grindy guy like Caleb Durbin to throw out there. They've got a pitcher who can maybe spot into like the 3-ish spot in their rotation, but you lost your ace. So this is how the Brewers do business. Those guys are cost controlled for many years into the future. They're super cheap. They'll be on the team for the next 4 to 5 years. Hopefully one of them turns into something more than he looks like right now. But as it is, the Brewers, are without a star, and they do this kind of a lot.
And I take comfort in the fact that this time last March, we were having this conversation of where we thought the Brewers were going to go, and we had middling expectations at best, and they managed to rocket pretty hard until they hit the NLCS, of course. But still, it was an amazing season for them that no one expected. So I trust the pitch, at least the pitching staff, to look at their prospects and put together a rotation that will be good. I mean, are there any prospective stars in your mind of who can be that? Not a Freddie Peralta, because no one's Freddie Peralta, of course, but just saying like, all right, here's a person we can put some trust in.
So they shouldn't be bad. It's mostly like Peralta was very good last year. He got Cy Young votes last year, and that's hard to replace. But like you count on like Jacob Mizorowski taking a step forward and actually pitching more often. not getting hurt, staying in the starting rotation, doing that. Logan Henderson looked very good last year until he got hurt, and he'll likely be back as well. They always have like guys who can kind of fill out the back of the rotation no matter what. It's just Quinn Priester's good, but I don't think he is he's not going to be the star of a rotation anytime soon. Chad Patrick is fine. That's the thing. Like, they've got a lot of fine. Everybody's fine. Brandon Woodruff in his current incarnation is probably that's like what he is too. But they don't, unless Mizorowski takes a big step forward and pitches a lot more innings, he's really the only really highlight guy they have. Logan Henderson, I think, can maybe be that guy, but he needs to add another pitch to his stuff too. And like, we'll see if Robert Gasser had to have Tommy John. I don't even know if he's going to be back for the start of next season. He is probably their best pure prospect, but when guys come back from significant injury, you never know what you're going to get out of them. So that's what you're hoping for.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what comes in a few weeks, because before we know it, they'll be in Arizona warming up, because that's what 3 weeks away from now. 3 weeks from now.
It usually I usually think of it as Valentine's Day. So
okay.
there.
Oh wow, my gosh, okay. Well, we'll be talking more about that in the coming weeks as far as spring training in Arizona for the Brewers. But let's move to the Packers. They lost one staffer. They're keeping one on. Is anyone surprised about who they've kept on board for the job?
So no, Matt LaFleur will be back. Terms not yet disclosed, but he's coming back. But they did suffer a pretty significant loss. Jeff Hafley is going to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. He was their defensive coordinator, and he is kind of a polarizing figure, because the Packers defense is hard to actually quantify as to whether he did a good job or not. Last year, before they got Micah Parsons, they were a top 5 defense with, I would say, not great talent. This year, with Parsons, they were kind of middling, and then when he went out, they were like the 28th best defense, which is not great. Defensive coordinators are hard to quantify, generally speaking, but he doesn't have a huge track record for success, and it was kind of surprising that a team jumped on him so quickly. But Hafley is gone, so they do have to replace him going forward. They have interviewed 4 people so far. The most noteworthy for Packer fans, the biggest noteworthy was probably Al Harris, who former Packer corner, former Packer great. He's currently with the Bears, and at a lower level position, working for Dennis Allen. But if nothing else, the Bears led the league in turnovers created this past year, and that is an area where the Packers have struggled. I personally think that's not something you can really coach up. Turnovers are mostly about the quarterbacks you face in a given year. And your ability to catch the ball, which the Packers weren't great at. But Al Harris is a good one to keep an eye on and would be fun to have back. I have no idea if he's a good coach or not. I don't think anybody else does either. Anybody who tells you differently is lying to you. But he would be a good one to get. I would say the best person they've interviewed so far, but the worst person they've interviewed is Jonathan Gannon, who used to be the head coach of the Cardinals and is not good. Don't hire that guy. Durante Jones, the Minnesota Vikings pass game coordinator, would be good. That is a good pass defense. But Christian Parker on the Eagles would be a good get. They run a very similar scheme to what the Packers already run. He is a Vic Fangio disciple. We almost always hire somebody in that tree of defensive coordinators. The Eagles are a pretty creative defense, and I like getting people from teams that do something out of the ordinary. The Vikings are too. The problem with hiring the Vikings guy is their coordinator is Brian Flores, who they're having back. He's the best defensive coordinator, but you can't learn to be Brian Flores. He is just kind of a genius savant. You can only just be him. He just knows what he's doing better than anybody else. So Christian Parker's who I'm rooting for. Al Harris would be fun. There's another 10 guys out there that they might go for, but that's where the Packers are so far.
Do you think they're going to go and interview a lot of people, or do you think it's these 4 or 5 and just make their like? When do you expect a decision on this from the Packers organization on who they replace?
I think it'll be a little bit. I actually think they'll have quite a few people in on this. There, I think, is not a big favorite out there, and there are a couple of weird outliers you can talk to too. I think they'll take their time. I bet they'll have another 4 or 5 guys in at least.
All right, and in the last couple of minutes, the Bucks, they're just
You guys always
now-
make me talk about the Bucks. So,
I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. I know a
No,
lot
no,
of
no,
Bucks
no.
fans who don't want to talk about the Bucks. So
the Bucks are coming off getting destroyed by the Thunder. They did,
Yeah.
to their credit, have a 2-point win over the Hawks the other day. But the problem with the Bucks is, part of it is it's just a broken record. The Bucks have no depth.
Yeah.
To the extent the Bucks were ever going to be good this year, they needed to have fantastic health out of their like 6 best players, really their
Yeah.
5 starters, and outside of Giannis, that just hasn't happened. They have a bunch of injuries right now, and the sign of a bad team in the NBA is one that squeaks by the wins that they get and gets destroyed in every other game, and they're getting ripped, man. I understand the boos that have happened. Don't boo Giannis; he's been great, but
yeah.
I understand why they're happening.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of Sports Talk with Paul Noonan. Thank you so much for being here. Paul Noonan is a writer for the Acme Packing Company. He's here every other Thursday. Thank you so much, Paul. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm.
Yep, you too, guys. Thanks.
All right, when we come back, a little piece of advice from Greg. If you're looking for weight loss drugs, be on the lookout for a scam out there. I'm going to give you a little warning when we come back. Mid-mornings on Civic Media. Stay tuned, stay warm, stay close. Welcome back to Mid Mornings on Civic Media. My name is Greg Bach. I am your host. I'm your pal. I am your buddy here at the end of the show. If you want to be part of the conversation, you could always call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment on the live stream. We're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform we still call Twitter. Don't forget to get that Civic Media app on your device, your phone, or your tablet, or wherever you put your apps. And please remember, I'm looking at it right now. I want to make sure I get this correct. Today, at least in the southeastern Wisconsin area, it's going to be in the teens, and that is still very cold, but it is going to get far more cold over the next few days into next week. From tonight through mid-Friday, we are going to be in an extreme cold warning. And then from Friday on through Saturday, we will be in an extreme cold watch. So please just keep that in mind. Below zero temperatures, far below zero wind chills. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure the kids are prepared. Maybe pack a little extra in the car in case there's a breakdown, like a shovel or some blankets or some hand warmers. But just be prepared. You can go to civicmedia.us and find out more about the weather. But we just want you to be as prepared as humanly possible, because that is very important in these last few weeks of extreme winter in Wisconsin. All right, coming up on the show tomorrow, we're going to be speaking with the genie of just about everything, Miss Terry Barr, Civic Media's very own Terry Barr, about the stories she's working on that you can always find by going to civicmedia.us/news. And then we're also going to be speaking to Francesca Pica from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, talking about the Wisconsin Realtors Association most recent real estate report and other developments around real estate in Wisconsin. So you don't want to miss that. Lots of great programming ahead tomorrow. But after us, stick around. Tom Hartman's on from 11 to 2. It's going to be fantastic. Then John and Gordy in the afternoon from 2 to 5. They're going to be talking to Jim Santel at 3:30. And then at 4:30, talking to the world-famous Madison's very own rocker. And on Nightlight with Pete Schwaba, he will be speaking with NBC 26 reporter Hannah Lopez and Irish novelist Molly Aiken. So you don't want to miss it. Stay tuned, stay close, get the app, hang out, be a part of the conversation. We love to have you here. But yeah, it's always great to have you here. As we always say, we very much appreciate your time that you give to us when you spend time here on Civic Media. Now today, I saw a story. This isn't so much this shouldn't be a thing. I mean, it shouldn't be a thing, but I think it's more of an important conversation piece because, Calvin, I mean, we all know weight loss drugs, they're called GLP-1 drugs, are a thing that are around, whether you're taking the Wegovy, the Ozempic, Monjaro, I don't know. They're ridiculous names, Calvin. I don't understand why they come up with this. But I wanted to say something that if this is something that you've been interested in, something that you've talked to your doctor about, there is a scam going around right now. According to the Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin, over 100 consumers have been targeted by online retailers claiming to sell drugs and similar alternatives across the U.S. In Wisconsin, 3 consumers have reported losing several $100s. So basically what I want to tell you is that if you see something come into your email, something that comes across maybe as an advertisement on social media saying, hey, do you want to take Wegovy or Ozempic, but you just can't afford it, and we can sell you something cheaper, be on the lookout. Don't fall for it. Talk to your doctor. That's very, very important. It says scammers are taking advantage of high demand by marketing discounted off-brand drugs and dietary supplements. According to their scam tracker, which we've talked to Lisa Schiller about, one Wisconsin consumer reported losing almost $1,200 after purchasing a product she saw on Facebook. So, yeah, we have discussed this over and over again about the products you see on social media. They may not be the best. And we're not just talking about, quote, discounted weight loss drugs. We're talking everything from clothing to watches to whatever. Just always be very skeptical about what you see on social media that is for sale. Make sure that they are. You can check them out on the BBB. You can check out their reviews on Google, on Yelp, wherever they get reviews, but just be very careful. But in this situation, they are catching people on these, quote, discounted weight loss drugs. So if you see something, say something, get in touch with the BBB, with the Better Business Bureau, report it, let them know, because we have to keep this up and running. If you got family in your life who is on social media a lot and could get hooked on this, just make them very aware as well, because you don't want to be a part of this. They said that it has tracked a series of popular weight loss scams from companies like Get Relief RX, Burn Slim, Coriage RX, Fitity, Green Vital, and Manha Burn that use AI generated content and false advertisement to promote products. We'll put this story in the show notes. That way you can especially be aware of these products that are out there, these product names. The scams often promote weight loss products like Lipomax, Ozempic, and Prozenith, and include fake photos and videos of doctors or stars like Oprah Winfrey speaking about GLP-1 arm patches and the, quote, pink salt trick diet. That's the other thing, Calvin, people need to, but they are AIing. I saw a Kelly Clarkson video where they AI'd her into talking about pink salt trick diet that she's not a part of, and it made it look like she was plugging it. So just please be aware when you see these weight loss alternatives, these GLP-1 drugs that are, quote, discounted on social media, be aware, do your research, tell friends and family, and if you are in the middle of something here, talk to the Better Business Bureau, report it so they know that you've been affected too. But that is just a little tidbit, a little piece of advice from Greg as we close out the show. I want to thank everyone here, Calvin, Tucker, engineering, traffic. Without you, nothing works. I'm talking into a microphone that's not on. I want to thank everyone who called, who texted, who sent a comment on the live stream. Without you, we don't exist. As we said, tomorrow we're talking to Terry Barr and Francesca Pica from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, so don't go anywhere. Tom Hartman's after the news from 11 to 2, and then plenty of great programming following that. But you are wonderful. Thank you for spending time with us. As always, stay tuned, stay informed, and stay close on the Civic Media Radio Network.